on
Mansfield in the morning.
Yesterday I was having a conversation with a very deep and intelligent thinker, and she asked me simple questions, as these sort of people do, such as, how do logic and empathy work together, and what is it like to journey with the terminally ill? So I want to look briefly at logic and empathy, because what she was actually saying as I unpacked it was, if we can see that something is logically wrong with the behavior and it's exacerbating what the person's going through, can we still have sympathy for that person? And I do want to say that it's our logic that tells us the behavior is wrong, and we need to be careful of that, because their logic might tell them it's right. But I said, of course, because empathy is not about judging the person's behavior, but about feeling what they feel, understanding their feelings. And that is why when we do a lot of counseling, we can get empathy burnout, if you like. We can get tired from sharing with people in that way. And so I said to her, empathy is actually the ability to understand and share the feelings, and it's got nothing to do with judgment. And I do want to stress that we do need to feel empathy for other humans, simply because they're other humans just like us. Then we got on to journeying with the people who are terminally ill. What do they talk about? And I said it's such a privilege for me, because I find that as I meet with them, so their masks come off, because there's no longer any need to put up those masks and barriers. Yeah. And you actually have the privilege of truly seeing the person and knowing them. And then she spoke about, well, what do they speak about? And I said there were two main things that people spoke about to begin with. Then we got on to other things, such as what the journey's like. But they spoke about fear of how they were going to die, fear of the unknown, and fear of leaving their family behind, and would their family be all right? And I've spoken about fear before, so I'm not going to look at that now. But the second thing they talk about is regrets. And I do want to focus on that today, because after the conversation I thought, well, why do we wait for a terminal diagnosis? Because these things chain us now and rob us of being free to enjoy today. So when we look at regrets, people actually find it very difficult to forgive themselves, to let go and to move on. And I think most people have regrets. I think you'd agree with that. And so they battle to forgive themselves. And I once went to a person and I said to them, I'm really battling with something that I'd said. And they said to me, and in fact they shocked me, they said, well, Shona, do you think you're God? So I was a bit uncomfortable with the question, and I said, of course not. And they said, so why do you think you have to be perfect? And I think that's the thing we need to understand, that we're not perfect. We put so much pressure on ourselves. None of us is perfect. We all have issues. We all have a story. And sometimes, no matter how hard we've worked on improving ourselves, no matter how much we've opened ourselves up to healing, we'll slip back and we may hurt someone in the process. So we do need to be kind to ourselves and recognize that we are human and we do make mistakes. And we need to let it go. Most people never intentionally hurt another person, but unintentionally we do, and we need to let that go. So I wonder how you're feeling today. Do you know that you're loved? Do you know that you are lovable? And can you say to yourself, look in the mirror this morning, and I'm actually challenging you to look in the mirror and say, I'm loved and I'm lovable. How do you feel about the fact that you're not perfect? Can you accept that? Because you need to. And we all need to be aware that we are lovable, and that we are able to love, and that we are a loving being, no matter what's going on in our lives. There is room for error in our lives, because we all make mistakes. And I actually think, I was reflecting on it, I think it begins with childhood, because you don't see babies feeling that they're not enough, do you? I mean, they all demand attention.
Exactly.
But they learn that perhaps this behavior isn't acceptable, or that they're not enough. And it's something that we need to unlearn and realize. Obviously, for me as a Christian, I believe that we're all beautifully and wonderfully made. So accepting ourselves is very important. And equally important is loving ourselves. Now, I think many of us battle with that concept. And I then began to understand it's not about prancing around saying, look at me, I'm amazing, but rather look at all of us. We're all amazing, including myself. And as I said, because as a person of faith, I believe we are wonderfully and beautifully made. Now, Nelson Mandela once said, there's no one who's born hating another person. And I'm going back to being born, accepting ourselves. There's no one born hating another person because of the color of their skin or their background or their religion. That we learn to hate, and if we can learn to hate, we can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than the opposite. And with what's going on in the world, I think it's important to remember this. But in the context of what I'm saying today, as I said, I don't believe a baby is born not liking itself. We have to unlearn that, what we've been taught. No baby thinks I'm too fat or too thin either, for example, or that I should have this color hair or that color eyes. A baby just accepts who it is, and we need to do that. So we need to work today. We need to do that in order to experience the peace and joy now, today. And what I found is that you'll also receive more love because you have more love to give. And you can only truly love and forgive another person if you love and forgive yourself. So we don't need to be perfect, and we shouldn't expect that of others. And we need to embrace life as it comes. So I want to end this morning with a poem of John O'Donoghue, one of my favorite poets. And he entitled it To Come Home to Yourself. And he said the following. He said, "May all that is unforgiven in you be released. May your fears yield their deepest tranquillities. May all that is unlived in you blossom into the future, graced with love." And so I wish that for all of you today. May God bless you and keep you safe.
Reverend Shona.
Shona.
Thank you.
Mansfield in the morning.
Jeremy, Simon, John, and Sam.
Weekdays from 6 to 9.
On Hot 91.9.